Okay, well, welcome everybody. We're here with a conversation with Cate. She is from the Living Grace Matters, and they have a new video project that's coming up. Submissions are being requested for bold visual witnesses on a variety of topics, and she's here to tell us a little bit more about that and how she got connected and what we can expect in the future from our friends over at Living Grace Matters. Cate, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Carl. It's an honor to be on your show and to share a little bit more about Living Grace and this visual project that we've created. So as you shared, Living Grace is a video competition that seeks to crowdsource visual stories of hope that witness to God's inbreaking in the world through the eyes of young adults. So these stories are video stories. They're 1 to 3 minutes. They're submitted in one of 3 categories. Those 3 categories are journey, reconciliation, and community. And we've had submissions throughout the summer that have been encouraging us and inspiring others. And we're excited to see the competition continue on. It closes up on September 15th. So that's our last day for submissions. We're excited to get hopefully a lot in the gate last minute if our submitters or anything like me. And then we'll be selecting our winners who get $3,000 in each of those 3 categories by October 1st. So it's an exciting project to be a part of. And man, have we learned a lot in the process. So you asked a little bit about the inspiration for the project and why we did that. Mm-hmm. So it was born out of a group of bishops, of pastors, of laity, of even professors at Christian colleges, about 25 in total, that really wanted to reclaim the Wesleyan witness. They wanted to create energy around what's happening in the lives of people in the world. And a couple of the ways they're hoping to do that were through over-investing in young folks and through digital engagement strategies. And this project was born out of those 2 focuses, saying what would it look like if we challenged young adults and created a platform online for people to tell their stories, to express themselves through videos that can be shared across Facebook, across Twitter, have images that point to them on Instagram, all these platforms that 18-year-olds to 30-year-olds are using to converse with each other. What if we prompt them to say, how is God working in your life and in the world? And that was really the heartbeat of this project and what we're going for here.
Nice.
So
the Wesleyan background for this project is interesting. Is digital video the new field preaching? Are we becoming so vile as to bring the gospel to this platform? Are there connections between the strategy, the actual how do we share these things and our historic Wesleyan heritage?
Well, absolutely. I mean, that's part of the heartbeat of it. I wouldn't say that video online is the new field preaching, but I think it's one new expression of it today in the 21st century. This is where people are talking. It's where they're sharing their opinions. It's where people are coming together. It's formation of identity, projection of self. It's used for inquiry. I mean, all of the things that the public square is in some places and was historically, that's can be online social media platforms. And so if we can tap into that and encourage people to use this not only as a way to say, here's this epic trip I went on, or let me show this funny video I stumbled across today, or here's how I'm feeling, to say, well, what is God doing in your world? And how have you been transformed by the gospel? And that might feel a little uncomfortable to just volunteer, but if there's a prompt and an incentive, and then there's more generative activity around it, then why not? So I think that absolutely yes, and we hope that we're kind of beginning to explore that and answer that question over the course of time. So
I don't know if overinvestment is a term that we hear too much in the church these days. Where did that idea come from, and what does that mean for this project?
Yeah, it was not my idea. It was some of the verbiage already used in this group, saying, young people are the future. And if we invest just a normal amount, we'll get just a normal result, right? But if we overinvest in people who are in this season of formation, of discernment, of figuring out who they are and what they want to do with their lives. And if we go deeper than the expectation, if we expect abundantly far more than we could ask or imagine, if we give, we will receive. And so the idea is, how do we give even more than any other institution, any other place that's feeding the souls of young folks, with the hope that that will just build on it. I mean, it will be a multiplier effect as these people, are nourished and then go out into the world. And so it was actually a term I was myself unfamiliar with until I started to get involved in this WISE group of leaders. And it was something that they were really excited about, kind of exploring and really investing in the idea as it's applied to the lives of young adults. So
in a recent video with Kenda Creasy-Dean, she talked about the local youth program that directly invested in their youth by changing their budget. So the budget that used to go to pay the big salary of a big youth leader to attract youth, they flipped that around and said, what if we just gave that money directly to youth in micro grants, and see how they can be agents of this ministry, in the name of Jesus, by young people and kind of for young people. So in the process of putting videos together for this project, there's a prize at the end for the winning video. How else are you engaging and supporting everybody that submits videos as agents of bearing this witness?
Well, so we're not providing any micro grants for the video creation, if that's part of your question. We did discuss, what would it look like if someone sent us an email and said, I want to create a video, but I don't have any, I don't have a camera, or I don't have any resources. And what we decided is we're not going to give micro grants on the front end for this go round, but we're going to do our best to connect people to local resources that might be able to aid them and that we would be hands-on. Now, we haven't gotten any emails like that, and so we're prepared to, but we haven't had the opportunity to do that yet. But I think part of the hope is, we hope to be an ongoing project, that this is the first form of our exploration of visual storytelling, and really creating, very much like the youth program you referenced, creating a platform by which people can tell their stories. We can reward them financially to hopefully accelerate their career, accelerate their ability to do this more in the future, and even maybe source churches, nonprofits, ministries with young talent that's hoping to have a career in videography, or that's considering having an future in vocational ministry around of marketing and online engagement, and this could be a gateway for them. So that's kind of part of the heartbeat behind it is, we talked about, what if we create visual stories of journey and of reconciliation and of community, but anything that someone over 30 would create is probably a little less relevant than the 30-year-old themselves could create. And so, that was a part of our heart behind it too, is if we create this platform, create this space, then how might we then be empowering those to use their own voice, as opposed to using our voice and trying to use the channels by which these young people are receiving the information.
Sure.
So it's a little bit of a different approach, but very similar in its heart behind it.
Yeah. There's some really good looking videos on the site already. Where are those coming from? Are you just tapping into folks who already are kind of thinking, trying their hand? They're applying to film school. They're like, where's that quality coming from? Are young people just, is that a native language for them? Good looking video, finding the resources, the tools to put that together. They know how to use their smartphone to make a really good looking video.
Yeah, that was one of our biggest questions going into this, is where are we ultimately going to find the folks that will end up submitting videos? So we took kind of a big approach where we would send massive emails to different seminaries and, videography classes at Christian universities, to any church list we could get our hands on, or pastor who would let us send kind of a broad reaching email. And then the different members of this group went out through our own networks and tried to say, hey, I know you're creative. Do you have a video you could submit? Or, hey, is there a production person at your church that might already have some videos or ideas for some this summer? And what we've found so far is that most of our direct connections are the ones that provided connection after connection, maybe 3 or 4 degrees removed, provided the at least initial buy-in to the project. And most of the submissions at this point are people who already have some background in videography, that this is more in their wheelhouse. They have done this before. They do it professionally, or trying to get into that space professionally. And not as many as we had hoped of the, I'm sitting in front of my computer because this is something I already do with my friends, and I'm using my iPhone, and my Mac already has iMovie on it. It hasn't been as much of that as we had hoped. So that will be one of our biggest questions as we wrap up this project and consider the future is, how do we engage those people? And how do we create an invitation for the people who are wondering and searching online and might just want to tell their story to someone else through this platform without it being as well produced, perhaps. So
the kids making Lego stop motion videos in their basement, the people doing sweeted videos like the Wolf Pack, the that kind of homemade shot for shot reshot.
We want you, yeah. Where are you? So,
well, the invitation is still out there, and people can submit their videos where?
You can submit it at livinggracematters.com. Really simple website, livinggracematters.com. It's really easy to submit. One of the tabs at the top is videos, and you can find a portal to submit on there. And another thing we hope to do with every video we submit is use our social media platforms and our following to amplify the voices of the folks who are sharing their stories, so they don't just sit on our website. We really push them out through our Twitter, our Facebook, and hope to get even more engagement and more eyes on what is God doing in your world through the network and the audience that we've been building over the course of this competition. So
one of the nice things that we realized was your project, the Living Grace Project, and our submission process for the Young People's Address really it sounded like they were coming at it from the same direction, which is today, and in the olden days, you would have this background process for getting the people that would say the thing or make the video, and then you would choose one, and then they would make the video. Today, everybody's submission can be featured, can be shared. And you might have one that wins, or the one, for us, it's the 2 or 3 people that we will eventually choose to be on stage at the United Methodist General Conference. But all along the way, you can say the witness of Living Grace has already begun with the first video that was submitted. The witness of the Young People's Address has already begun. It's the benefit of the new platforms on which we do this work.
Absolutely.
Where else do you see that taking the church? Where will that lead us in ministries with young people in the future?
That's a great question. Well, I think that it'll be interesting to see how both people are empowered to use their voice through online platforms, and know that it can and will be heard as it exists there, but then also trying to creatively and intentionally find a way to engage with those voices online of young adults. So it's not just peer-to-peer relationship, but if there is opportunity for formation, for teaching, for even safe kind of curated spaces of opportunity to dialogue with Google Hangouts, or I don't know that Bible studies will be replaced with Google Hangouts, but there's a chance, you never know. And so at least opening the minds of those in ministerial roles to consider, well, what are the opportunities, and how could we create invitations online that might make coming to church more accessible to a young person who would be too intimidated to initially walk into the doors. So there's so much to be explored. And at times I feel intimidated just by the vastness of what the internet provides for us, and trying to figure out how do we be smart about in what ways we engage and through what platforms. But I do think it's ripe with opportunity to touch the lives of those that we might not be able to touch otherwise. So
yeah, the folks that you mentioned who helped bring this project together are folks who have benefited from the kind of formalized decision-making training process of the church.
Mhm.
Where does this emerging format for witness
Mhm.
connect or touch on or influence those formal decision making and processes of the church? Is it pushing against it? Is it complementing it? Where do you see that connection going because of the work that you're doing?
Yeah. I think that the answer to that question is more based on perspective than reality.
Hmm.
So I would say that it just depends on the older generation who has been in a more formalized decision-making process, choosing to be frustrated with the kind of lack of control that something like an online platform with a more open way of expressing yourself, or just the way in which that works, it can be viewed as disruptive, or it could be seen as a new opportunity to be embraced, and to be navigated with care. And so I have been around different folks with different perspectives, and I think that their perspective matters more than the reality of the situation. If that might be a little bit of an elusive answer, but in my perspective, I think it's a huge opportunity to bring more voices to the table and make more effective decisions that impact a greater number of people. But to some, it's much harder to reach consensus or to figure out the one right way to move when you have so many voices and opportunities for voices to be shared and expressed and making a decision.
Yeah.
Does that begin to get at your question?
Yeah, no, I think that the ways that these platforms, they teach, the process itself teaches. One thing it teaches is there is no reason not to listen to each other now, that we don't have to wait for Robert's rules to tell us who we can listen to.
Yeah.
The second piece that it teaches is this is a very different kind of discourse than many in the church are familiar with, maybe comfortable with. And so there will be some sort of learning curve, and probably we can't rely on this process itself to do the kind of relational work that will bring this kind of further into the life of the existing church, the previous models for doing church, and etc. So that'll be interesting. I think it's encouraging that it is a group of people who are kind of a product of the existing church that have reached out in this way. It's kind of a bridge building thing. And I think that is an interesting part of the story, really, to lift up. Here are some folks who said, let's use the resources of the existing church to help young people build the new way that we need to communicate. I think that's encouraging. Yeah.
Well, and it's just been an interesting process, because a lot of when we were even addressing the issues we'd like to be a part of the solution to, the problems we'd like to be a part of the solution to, digital engagement seems like this big black hole of time, this big unknown to a lot of folks in traditional ministry. And therefore, it's much easier to focus on what you've known and what's right in front of you, and developing maybe fresh programs, but with a very similar way of functioning, being highly relational, highly in person, which is all really good. And then if you enter into this huge abyss of the online world, it can be intimidating, anxiety producing, time sucking. And so often people will leave it untouched. And so what we hope through our work as a group is that we're able to uncover some truths, some strategies, some platforms, some opportunities to give to those in ministry and church ministry and otherwise, to say, hey, here's something that we're finding really works, and here's how you do it, step 1 through 17, and here's what you should be looking for. So let's save you some time and energy and figure out how we can come alongside congregations and come alongside church leaders. And so that's part of the hope of these leaders, is to figure out some ways to really come alongside those who might otherwise not embrace the potential of online communication.
Sure. Are the submissions that have been invited, are those seen as young people young sermon givers? Are these are these videos basically the idea being, oh, this is a new way to give a sermon, or is it an invitation for the mystics, the artists, the visual, moving pictures as kind of video painting? Was there any conversation on that?
There was enough to just say that we'd like to have a big tent, and we'd love to try and create a space where both could come together, where we are both celebrating artists, those who love to paint pictures, whether it's through video or with oil and a canvas, people who this is a part of their own heartbeat, and then others who may be future preachers or be given their sermons every Sunday, or even just want to witness through their life. They have such a strong leaning towards, how do I witness with what God has done in me? So when we'd love for it to be a collaborative commons, a creative commons, where people are coming together to share their gifts with each other. So both and is my answer to that one.
That's fair. That's fair. Well, remind us one more time where people can go to submit their video, and are there other ways to connect, support, engage with the work that Living Grace is doing?
Yeah, so again, livinggracematters.com is our website. You can submit your videos through our online portal there and see the amazing work. Even if you're not going to submit a video, please go and look at some of the videos that have been submitted. They're quite inspiring. Also, there is an email address on our website, info@livinggracematters.com, that you can email to get in touch with us and share any thoughts you have, recommendations as we move forward. We welcome your feedback. We'd love to integrate it into what we do in the future and what we're doing right now. So thank you all for listening. Thanks for giving me this time, Carl.
Yeah, no problem. So they can find you on social media platforms as well, Facebook, Twitter?
Yeah, we have Twitter handles and a Facebook page. Living Grace Matters is our Facebook, and LG Matters is our Twitter handle.
Sure. Before we go, I'd like to invite any people that we're talking with to share a moment of one particular person that you've met, engaged with, the story that brings this kind of programmatic work that we do back into that kind of relational sphere that's so important for our Christian life together. Is there one person that kind of stands out in your mind during this project?
Absolutely. It's a great question. I really want to celebrate my friends, my friend Russell Joyce. He and his wife he's graduated from seminary recently and was discerning a call to full-time ministry. They're both creatives. They both, I feel, a longing towards the city, and decided that they were going to move to New York. And they are starting a video production company. It launched this summer, and might be floating some of their company on weddings, videography, but ultimately want to tell good stories of people in the world as they're experiencing their life, as they're discovering their identity, and as they're experiencing God's goodness in their lives. And they've submitted 3 videos as of the end of last month, and one of them was a personal story of Russell's that I would encourage everyone to watch. It's called Scars, and I've been just really inspired by their boldness and taking a risk and following a calling that they have on their lives to the big city to witness through visual storytelling. And this project, when I told them about it, they just came to life. They said, someone cares about this. And to hear that other people care about exactly what God is calling them to was enough to kind of send them off with more confidence and courage into this big journey ahead for them. So check out Scars on our website. Yeah. Appreciate
it. livinggracematters.com, and submit your video. Get it together, put it in, and see what happens. And thanks so much for the opportunity, Cate.
Thank you. Thanks, y'all.
Young People's Ministries is a ministry of Discipleship Ministries, an international agency of the United Methodist Church. Young People's Ministries helps to equip leaders working with young people by developing youth and young adults as spiritual leaders of local congregations to transform lives by making disciples of Jesus Christ, and challenging the United Methodist Church to embrace, confirm, and celebrate God's call in the lives of young people.